Welcome to Filoli's Rose Garden. During summer, more than 500 rose bushes, representing 150 different varieties, burst into bloom on the estate. Book your ticket at filoli.org to enjoy them during golden hour, when we are open late on Thursdays for summer nights. You won't want to miss the main rose garden, but you'll also find roses throughout the rest of Filoli's 16-acre formal garden, especially on the border of the sunken garden and in the Chartres Cathedral garden. Climbing roses, like those along the cutting cages and the Sally Holmes variety that adorns this beautiful arbor, provide popular photo spots. The rose garden was an original feature when the estate was built for the Bourne family in 1917, as seen in this historic photo from 1935. Note the gardeners in the foreground and the head gardener's cottage to the right. Over time, the garden has been reorganized from a mixed garden to color-separate beds and back to a mixed garden. It was designed with space for about 425 rose bushes. While the roses planted inside the Chartres garden to the north were meant to be enjoyed in place, those planted here in the panel garden were intended to be cut and used in the house in lavish arrangements. Most roses are native to the northern hemisphere, especially Asia. They were first cultivated in China in 500 BCE, but didn't appear in America other than the native wild roses until the 16th century. There are three groups of roses: wild or species roses, old garden roses, and modern roses. Wild roses have a simple 5-petal form and are usually pink. Old garden roses, also known as antique or heirloom roses, are often double-flowered, highly fragrant, and very hardy. Many of those bloom only once a year. Any roses from after 1867, the year the hybrid tea rose was created, are characterized as modern roses and are the type you are most likely to see in a garden today. They offer a continuous bloom and expanded shapes and colors, but can be less fragrant and more high maintenance. Most of Filoli's roses are modern roses. Several bushes from the time of the Roths, the second family to live at Filoli, remain in the garden today, although most of the shrubs have been planted since 1975, when the house and garden were donated to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. You can learn more about Filoli's roses by looking at their labels. Each rose is marked with the year the cultivar was officially registered. The letters correspond to the variety's classification. Rob Joice is one of the horticulturists assigned to care for this area of the garden.
Hello, my name is Rob Joice. I'm one of the horticulturists working in the panel garden at Filoli. And the panel garden includes the rose garden. So as you can see, I'm surrounded by many wonderful roses. Rose care for me is one of my favorite aspects of working at Filoli. I really enjoy the different colors, the multitudes of smells, not to mention the challenge of working with each rose's individual needs and making them as healthy as possible. So first of all, I'd like to show you the different classifications of roses at the Filoli garden. And second of all, I'd like to show you what you can do right now in your garden to maximize the blooming potential of your roses and make them full and healthy for the summer. So one of the first rose varieties I want to show you is the hybrid tea. So the hybrid tea is known for a long, kind of sturdy single stem with a single flower at the top. Now when the bud first emerges, it tends to be a bit more tightly bound. Here's a good example here. So one of the main characteristics of this is it has quite good longevity. So it's often favored by florists just for its long shelf life. And they tend to keep for longer time period than other roses. So secondly, we have the class called Grandiflora. Now much like the hybrid tea, Grandiflora also has a very robust long stem, but the main difference, as you can see here, is there are multiple flowers on the stem, so they kind of grow in a cluster. It also has a pretty good shelf life like the hybrid tea, and I really like this color. So another rose class I want to talk about are the Flora Bunders. Now, unlike the hybrid teas and Grandifloras, the Flora Bunders, they tend to flower on multiple branches. So Flora Bunda actually means flowering bountifully in Latin. So you can kind of see by the name here. You have multiple buds coming off of multiple stems. And the flowers don't tend to have as long of a shelf life as the hybrid teas or Grandifloras. But as you can see, they have many buds coming on, and soon it'll be full of lovely pink flowers. So here we have a shrub rose. It's called the Carefree Delight. Now shrub roses tend to be smaller in stature, but they also have more prolific flowers than varieties and Grandifloras. So next, I want to talk about deadheading and summer pruning. Now, deadheading, in my opinion, is one of the best things you can do for your rose right now in order to increase its health, its flowering potential, and to make sure that the energy is going into flower production and not seed and fruit production. So one of the main rules about deadheading is that you first want to find a flower that is expended or a little bit past its prime. Now, what I like to do is kind of do a little shake test. So if you shake the petals, and they come off, evidently it's ready for deadheading. So the first thing you want to do is find a flower that is expended or a little bit past its prime. And second of all, you want to find a leaflet that has 5 leaflets here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And most importantly, you want to find a leaflet that is pointing outwards, like this one here. So for best practices, you want to cut 1/4 inch above the node here, and ideally cut at a little bit of an angle. There we go. So you've deadheaded your first rose. Now you just want to rinse and repeat, go around the entire plant, and eventually give it a good tidy up. So one of my favorite roses in the garden is the Queen of Sweden, and it's a David Austin rose. And David Austin was a famous rose breeder known for kind of combining the romantic English rose qualities like scent and its beautiful kind of compounded look with the kind of more dependable aspects of modern roses, so like disease resistance. So I really like this for its kind of camellia-like blossom, has a really lovely scent, and it's one of the most dependable roses in the garden.
Thank you so much for joining this tour of Filoli's roses. Book your ticket today to visit at filoli.org.